We're gonna have three strategic topics today to dig in on. First, there's been a lot of activity in sort of U.S. science. A new report coming out of Office of Science and Technology Policy I'm going to touch on. Autonomous labs are becoming a real imperative for the U.S. to stay competitive in science and particularly in biotechnology versus China. So I'm going to speak to that. Second, Nebula, our large autonomous lab here in Boston, is the largest in the world. It's growing rapidly. I want to showcase what we've been doing with it. And then finally, we are using that lab and all our infrastructure here at Ginkgo to offer up competing services to offshore CROs that are quite economically competitive for customers. And I want to highlight one of those in particular. All right, so let's dig in on the autonomous labs. There's been a lot of news in the last quarter in particular. An article coming out in Stat magazine that featured Ginkgo quite heavily about this question within the biotech industry of should we be offshoring our work to China for the discovery of drugs? And is that a concern in a world where there's sort of increasing geopolitical tensions between the two countries? Ginkgo is featured around how our automation could be a counterweight to lower cost labor in China. But this is a hot topic. And the reason it is highlighted in that Wall Street Journal article where you've seen the number of newly acquired drug assets, in other words, drugs bought from startup biotech companies, go from almost none coming from Chinese startups about 5 years ago to last year it was 48%. In the first quarter of this year, it was more than 50%. And then that's obviously borne out in our sort of jobs ecosystem and our technology ecosystem. This is a post in Reddit on the biotech forum. I'm an extremely frustrated bench scientist having no luck finding work in 6 months after layoff. I did get an interesting suggestion. One biopharma startup CEO told me he doesn't hire for any bench work in the States, outsources it all to China. He said, have you considered working in China? And this person says, is that a good idea considering I only speak English? I don't think that's a great idea. I don't think our scientists should be moving to China in search of biotech jobs. I think the US needs to become competitive with China. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to automate the laboratory work at the lab bench. And you're seeing a lot of energy around this. There's an absolutely great report out of the Office of Science and Technology Policy from Director Mike Kratsios there, highlighting the new strategy for science in the United States. This is partially under the umbrella of the Genesis mission, which I'll talk about to bring AI into science, but also highlights NSF's new program to spend $400 million on a national network of cloud laboratories. And if you look in the document, you'll see this section on autonomous experimentation. Closed loop autonomous laboratories can collapse discovery timelines by orders of magnitude and enable science at a truly industrial scale. Focused investments in robotics and automated laboratories, leveraging industry demand and federal R&D to ensure our scientific equipment industrial base is built on the world's best hardware and software and leads the charge in the coming scientific revolution. This is awesome. It's really great to see a call to action like this out of the OSTP. It's exactly what they should be doing. If you see here on this next slide, Ginkgo's been building the first autonomous lab for a national lab here in the US. I had the chance to ribbon cut the first 13 of our racks at Pacific Northwest National Lab with the Secretary of Energy, Secretary Wright, in December. On the right-hand side, you can actually see all the expanded 97 rack system that we'll be building a schematic of that this is going to be expanded into coming up under the Genesis mission. So really excited to be a part of that. Very excited to announce just yesterday that we had been selected to build autonomous labs for MIT, Caltech, Maryland, and Northwestern. Caltech, Maryland, and Northwestern as part of this NSF program, and MIT through a separate grant. This is really exciting because we're getting autonomous labs in the hands of graduate students, people with my sort of training, so that they're learning how to do science on top of robotics, rather than how I was taught, which was sort of slaving away at a lab bench, doing experiments by hand. We have to think about the practice of how we do this work alongside the underlying technology of robotics so that they develop together. And so I think this program is super important. I think it's a big part of how the US stays competitive. I'm quite proud we're a part of it.